Ever feel like you're more than just one person? Like a whole world exists inside you?
I know that feeling.
Well, get this. That feeling might be closer to the truth than you think. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden world of microbes and their shocking influence on evolution. Now, you might have heard about the microbiome in terms of gut health, right?
Right.
But trust me, this goes way beyond that. We're talking about how those tiny organisms living inside us might be the secret puppet masters of evolution itself.
It's wild.
So we're dissecting this fascinating research paper today. It's called Modeling the Role of the Microbiome in Evolution, and it was published in the journal Frontiers in Physiology back in December 2018. Basically, these researchers use computer simulations to explore this mind-blowing idea. What if our microbiomes are pulling the strings of evolution?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. The paper really digs into the idea that we are not just individual organisms, but like complex ecosystems shaped by the trillions of microbes that call us home.
So no more me, myself, and I.
Nope.
It's more like me, myself, and my trillions of microscopic tenants.
Pretty much.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's break down how the researchers actually studied this. They use something called Boolean networks, which might sound complicated, but it's actually quite simple and elegant.
Yeah, so imagine a cell like a giant circuit board.
Okay.
Each gene is like a tiny light switch that can be either on, N, or OFF. Now, connect those switches in a complex network where flipping one switch can turn others on or off in a chain reaction. That, in essence, is a Boolean network.
So they basically built a digital model of a cell complete with its own little network of genes all connected and ready to flip. But instead of poking at real cells, they gave these simulated cells tasks, challenges they had to adapt to in this digital world.
Precisely. And these tasks were represented by specific patterns of those light switches turning on or off over time. The simulated cells had to figure out the right combination of gene activity to successfully complete the task. It's essentially mimicking how organisms adapt to new environments in the real world.
Like a microscopic escape room, but for digital cells.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets really wild. They found that the cells evolved much faster when they had microbial partners. And we're not just talking a little faster, like a dramatically faster rate of evolution.
Yeah, and what's even more remarkable is that the researchers weren't just looking at if microbes helped or hindered, they dug into the how. And what they found is that the microbial networks were already pre-trained to be good at their tasks. Think of it like this. The microbes were already experts at their own jobs, and their expertise, even indirectly, gave the host cells a huge advantage.
Okay, hold on. I need to wrap my head around this. So it's not even that the microbes were actively trying to help the host cells evolve. They were just going about their own business, doing their own thing.
Right.
But that alone was enough to supercharge the host's evolution.
It's a fascinating example of how interconnected life truly is. The microbes weren't intentionally aiding the host's evolution, but their presence, their interactions, had a profound impact nonetheless.
So the microbes were like these silent partners, boosting the host's evolutionary potential just by doing their own thing.
It's really remarkable.
That's incredible, but hold on a second. Didn't they find that too many microbes could actually be, a bad thing, like too much of a good thing?
Yeah, that's where this whole concept of specialized microbial niches comes into play.
Yeah.
The researchers found that simply having more microbes wasn't always the answer. It was about having the right microbes for the job. It's like,
So it's not like a giant microbe party where more is always merrier.
No, not quite. Think of it like a well-coordinated team, right?
Yeah.
You've got your offensive players, your defensive players, your specialists, each one fine-tuned for a very specific role.
Okay, so instead of a chaotic mosh pit of microbes all just hanging out, it's more like a well-choreographed dance with each microbe knowing its steps.
Exactly. The paper found that this microbial specialization, this division of labor, was key for the host to really thrive, especially when it was faced with more complex challenges.
So diversity is key, but it's not just about having a lot of different microbes, it's about having the right ones for the specific challenges the host is facing.
Precisely. And this is where things start to get really interesting from a real-world perspective. Because when we look at our own bodies, we see this principle of specialized microbial niches playing out in some pretty fascinating ways.
Like how? Give me an example.
Well, take the human gut, for instance.
Yeah.
We know that different areas of the gut have vastly different environments, each with its own unique set of challenges.
Right, like different levels of acidity, different food sources, it's a whole journey down there.
Exactly. And just like you wouldn't expect the same plants to thrive in a rainforest as you would in a desert, You wouldn't expect the same microbes to thrive in all parts of the gut. You have microbes specialized for breaking down complex carbohydrates in one area, microbes that help regulate the immune system in another, and so on.
It's like each part of the gut has its own team of microbial specialists, each contributing to the overall success of the whole system.
Exactly. And this specialization, this division of labor, is what allows the host to extract maximum benefit from its microbial partners.
Okay, so microbial diversity is important, specialization is key. But we're talking about evolution here, survival of the fittest, right? So what happens when things go wrong in this microbial utopia?
That's a critical question. And the researchers didn't shy away from exploring the, shall we say, the darker side of this intricate relationship.
Hit me with it. What happens when this delicate balance is disrupted?
Well, they simulated what happens when you start messing with this microbial diversity. Imagine, removing a significant portion of the microbial community, like clear-cutting a forest or, dare I say it, overdoing it with the antibiotics.
Okay, I'm already getting nervous. I've definitely been guilty of the antibiotic overuse in my day. So, what happened in their simulation when they started playing microbial Jenga and pulling out too many pieces?
The result was what scientists call dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis. That doesn't sound good.
It's not. It's essentially a fancy word for when a once harmonious ecosystem gets thrown out of whack.
Like when you try to organize your desk and suddenly everything's in the wrong place. Something like that, but with potentially far more serious consequences. In their simulation, removing those microbial networks, even those that seem redundant, hampered the host's ability to perform its tasks. It's like disrupting a well-oiled machine.
And we all know how frustrating that can be. But in this case, we're not just talking about, a machine malfunctioning. We're talking about a living organism's ability to adapt and thrive.
Exactly. And when we connect this back to the real world, it starts to raise some important questions about how we interact with our own microbiomes.
Okay, so I'm getting the sense that disrupting our microbial ecosystems might not be the best idea.
That's putting it mildly.
So we're basically walking, talking ecosystems reliant on these intricate microbial communities for everything from digestion to evolution itself. Yeah, and it's a humbling thought, isn't it? Yeah. We often think of ourselves as like the pinnacle of evolution, but this research suggests that we're more like collaborative projects, shaped by millions of years of partnership with the microbial world.
It's both awe-inspiring and a little terrifying at the same time.
Right?
Awe-inspiring because it reveals this whole hidden layer of complexity and interconnectedness in the web of life, but terrifying because we're just starting to understand how much we rely on these microbial partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what happens when things go wrong? I mean, we've already talked about the potential downsides of disrupting our microbiomes, but this research really drives home the point. It's not just about like an upset stomach or a course of antibiotics. It's about potentially impacting our ability to adapt and thrive in a changing world.
And that's especially concerning when we consider how rapidly our world is changing. Climate change, urbanization, diets full of processed foods. All of these are factors that can throw our microbial ecosystems out of whack.
It's like we're playing a high-stakes game of Jenga with our own microbiomes pulling out pieces without fully understanding the consequences.
A very high-stakes game.
Yeah.
But the good news is that we're finally starting to pay attention. Scientists are uncovering this incredible diversity and functionality of our microbial partners. And this research provides a really powerful framework for understanding how these interactions shape us, even on an evolutionary level.
So what does this all mean? What's the takeaway for the average person who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk of microbes and evolution?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that we're not alone. We are part of this incredible, intricate web of life. And understanding our place in that web, including our relationship with the microbial world, is essential for our own well-being and the health of the planet.
It's a reminder to be mindful of the choices we make, the food we eat, the environments we inhabit, the way we use antibiotics, because these choices have ripple effects that extend far beyond our individual selves.
Well said.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a newfound sense of respect for my trillions of microbial passengers. They're not just along for the ride, they're part of what makes me me. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It really has.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is just the beginning. As we delve deeper into the world of the microbiome, who knows what incredible discoveries await?
I can't wait to find out. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.